Good morning, family. Black Feniks checking in. Right now, I'm inside the shop, and I want to talk to you about our Black history and about your history being a Black American, a Black Native American, whatever you want to call yourself. So, I was just thinking about some of my history that I've been learning over the last 6 months about my personal history, like from my family, how we grew up. And when you start chasing your history, you want to know both sides of your family. You want to know your mother's side and you want to know your father's side. But you most definitely need to know your father's side. And you might want to know why it's so important, because the fathers carry the generational seed. So if the generational seed came from a mother who produced a father and a man who helped produce this sibling, then you're going to learn more about these two people who planted a seed, created a seed, raised the seed, and you'll know more about who you are as a person. Yes, good rising, family. So I think that it's very, very important that we learn from our ancestors. Like, we really need to learn why our fathers was the way they were, why their fathers, why their mothers, why their grandmothers, because all of this stuff passed down through generations and generations, and you will be surprised on who you look like, where you get your mannerism from, how you have a strong spirit and a drive. You will see certain things about your physical traits, your mentality, certain things you can find from your ancestors. Let me put that back up, brother, because I couldn't see it. It popped up. And it started raining a little loud here. Love you too, black man. Glad you checked in. So, over this few months, man, I've been doing a lot of research and I've been learning more about my father. And I'm going to be honest with you. I hated my father, but now I don't. I let that hate go a while ago, but I still had some ill will. I'm gonna be honest with you, because it was some things, it's like some pieces of the puzzle that I completely couldn't understand as a man. Like, I just couldn't understand it. And the more I got around my aunt, who has enlightened me on the past, and I have seen photos, and I have listened to the stories, and I have seen the archives of what my grandparents did. And I got a chance to see 4 generations, 5 generations. I got a chance to put my eyes on some people who was actually born in the 1800s that produced it. My seed, the reason my seed is where it's at now, the reason that my family is rooted in that area. So it's kind of ironic the way it all happens. You know what? It's crazy that you say that, because you honestly don't have to have a communication with them. I understand. If it's to a level where you can't communicate, it is what it is. But I feel like we need to learn how to release the hate, though. You know what I mean? Let that go. There's no reason for the cycle to continue, because history going to repeat itself until someone breaks the chain. So once you learn more about why they are who they are, it'll give you more of a proper perspective. Now, once you grow up and you start seeing more of who you are and more of the things you face, you'll start understanding, like, man, honestly, it depends on the situation. You'll feel bad for a situation. Like, man, I thought I had it bad. I really didn't. You see what I'm saying? He was in a situation where I couldn't even imagine got once I got aware of the way he grew up and the way his parents grew up and their parents grew up. And I started seeing my uncles and what they did and my grandfathers and what's going on. And I learned more history about my grandmother and my father's mother, you know what I'm saying? And it made me realize facts that we have to embrace the knowledge from our ancestors. Yes, it's our business, it's our goal to do this, because as we become fathers, in order for you to be a proper father, even though, because you know, it's one thing, I got out of prison after doing 10 years, from 16 to 26 years old. I didn't know how to be a father when I get out of prison. I had studied, I had learned from fathers, I have seen examples, and I used that to start forming my ideal of what a father was, and I just started building a structure. But I still at that time, I didn't know the complete past of my lineage and some true areas that later, as a man, that I had to work on. And I was wondering, like, why I got this issue, or why do I do this or that? And then I get the understanding that this was something that was passed down through generations and generations. And now I'm like, man, if I don't break this, this is going to continue to happen. You see what I'm saying? So we can learn a lot from our past. We can learn a lot from our ancestors. I think we really need to embrace the knowledge from our elders. You know, a lot of times we move so fast as man, we want to hurry up and get out there, and we get in the field and we move around, and we tend to forget about those we got that's still alive, that came before us, that really came before us, that seen things that we can't even imagine. Those are the people that got the most information on who you are. Go back and contact them. Go back and listen to some of their stories, and watch some of watch some of the videos or the photos they have to know where you come from. You know, and me personally, for those who want to know, I'm Black and Native American, so I have a strong Native American side. So my people on my mom's side was actually slaves, but my people on my dad's side wasn't. You feel me? I didn't know this. My people on my dad's side was Native American and Black, but more Native. And they was free. They was more into politics. They was coming up through Louisiana and ended up migrating to Eudora, Arkansas. And the spread started. And it helped me know more about my structure of my cheekbones and the way my hair is, and my hair already's been curling. I want to know why I am how I am. You know what I mean? Most definitely. So I most definitely like wanted to know more of who I was. So as I started doing more research, I found out that, you know, my grandfather and them side, and I mean my father's side, my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great grandmother, great great grandmother, is Native, you know, and Black, and if you see my grandmother, it'll really trip you out, because you learn more about how things go, and you see more like from my uncles, you know, from my aunts, and I compare how things are, and I'm like, wow, because literally, like, just from my lineage, I witnessed at least, I know my lineage back to the 1800s on my dad's side now. I didn't even know that. I don't even know my mom's side now, you know what I mean? But on my dad's side, I know it back to the 1800s, we're really 1700s, you know? So I have so much information that I'm still processing, family. Like, I'm still trying to get it all down. But I know most definitely that us learning from our ancestors, us embracing that, can take us to a different level. Yes. You know what? Why would you let Your enemies teach you your history. And it's crazy how the public schools is designed. Because if you think about what you learned about your culture, about your history there, as you grow up, it'll make you angry. But you know, we can't get mad about it, you know, but it's okay to get mad, but not to get bitter about it. I'm just saying like that. You get angry about it. Just don't get bitter about it. Just like, you know, you can't believe that these folks told all these lies. Why did they feed me all this BS? Why did they program me to believe certain things? You know what I mean? So it's up to us to do our own research. It's up to us to learn about our family. It's up to us to really dig in and really keen in on who we are. You know, and I think it's important, family, that we don't lose sight of that, because as time goes by, one thing we realize for a fact, it's like a revolving door. If you don't break it, if I don't break the curse, it's gonna keep going. Now I know things about me that explains things that I never even realized that was passed down to me. So literally things are passed down to us through generations, from not just our features. You think this is the only thing that's passed down, the way you look? Nah, a lot of psychological things are passed down to you. A lot of emotional things are passed down to you. And you will wonder why you deal with certain issues that you have, not knowing where this issue started from. And then how can you deal with the issue? Because literally, as the old saying goes, knowing is half the battle, family. Like, for real. Like, once you start knowing, then you can actually start doing more about truly solving the problem and not just putting a band-aid on the problem. You know what I mean? So I think it's important that we learn all we can, and you know, we just embrace who we are, you know, because all of us have different, you know, majority of black people have different ties to Spanish Americans, have different ties to Colombia, have different ties to white America, have different ties to Native Americans, have different ties to Asian Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are connected. Our culture are tied into a lot of different cultures. You know what I mean? Which makes us a more broader culture, but we still need to know our lineage. You know what I mean? Now they don't want us to know the true history. You got to think about it. You know, the game is. I'm gonna tell you something real quick, because I want to run in and get my photos. I left them on the coffee table, so I'm gonna run in here in a minute because I want to show you some of my pictures of my family, so I can give you some of my history. So this is gonna kind of trip you out, because it tripped me out. But they literally don't want us to know, like, there was a man when the slavery started. A lot of white Americans was being killed. A lot of slaves was revoking and killing themselves and trying to flee, and like Great Up War. They couldn't. They was trying to figure out, how can we control these slaves? How can we really control them? So they went to a gentleman that wasn't in America, and I don't know if he was in South America, or if I got to figure out exactly where he was. But they went to him. Not the Willie Lynch syndrome. This is the Willie Lynch level. This is before that. They went to this gentleman and told him, how can we get these slaves to keep from revoking this and that? And he was like, well, do they know where they're from? Do they know who they are? Yeah. Yeah. He said, well, that's the problem. They know they're kings and they know they're royalty. As long as they know who they are, they're not gonna allow you to enslave them. They'll kill themselves before they let you enslave. They know they kings, they know they gods. So they're not going to allow you to do this until you wipe away who they are. You got to wipe it completely away. And then you can control them and you can tame them as people. Now think about history, family. What did they start doing to make that possible and make it successful? Remember, they made it law that blacks couldn't learn. We couldn't read. We had to change our names. You couldn't say where you were from. Yeah, if they hear you say anything that was black, they'll beat it out of you. They made you scared to forget who you are. Think about it. Now, as this go on and on and on, think about the psychological damage. Think about those who are literally want to do something to you for trying to awake them. Think of all of those that Herb and Tubby couldn't deliver because they had got brainwashed and they wanted to keep her from doing what she was doing because it was messing up what Master was doing. You see what I'm saying? So we have to learn our history, family. We have to learn our history. We have to know that it's more than, way more than what they tell us. It's way more than what you see. You know, we contribute way more than what we believe. And all of us, majority of the slaves that was in America, you know, was prisoners of war. What, you know, it wasn't sold, you know, so it was, the game is, man, we have to learn. Oh, the noise in the background is the rain, man. It's raining right now. It literally just started on and off. So I'm in Georgia and Columbus right now. So I think it's supposed to rain here and that all day. And I'm inside of my shop. So it's a metal building. So you can really hear the rain when it's dropping. But let me run in real quick. I want to grab these photos because I really want to show you these photos as I continue this video. So give me a second. What up, family? Sorry for the wait. Sorry for the wait. I actually got a couple packages up there from UPS. I got my welding booth stuff in, so I'm going to start installing my welding booth today inside the shop, the separation of it, and get everything started lining out. So I went back to actually pick these photos up so I can show y'all some photos of my family. Kind of give you an idea of some of the history that I have been doing myself to learn more about my culture. This is mother's grandmother, mother's grandfather. I want you to see him. You see how this man looks? Now this is grandfather that I just showed you. And this is my great grandmother on this other side and grandfather. This is him. This is all their kids. Now, this lady over here, this is my great great grandmother. She's Cherokee and black. You see her? This gentleman right here is my grandfather. Great great grandfather. He's Osage. I want you to see that. So I've been doing a lot of history, back history on my family and where we come from as a culture, and a lot of research on why we look the way we look, why we built the way we are built. And I wondered why that happened. And then I now realize why it happened. You know, my sister was born with 12 fingers. My baby sister by my mom. My mom had 2 kids, me and my sister by my dad. I wasn't born with any defects like that. You know, I actually, I was born on the darker side, but not as dark as my dad and my other, and their parents, but with the hair. Had the real curly hair, the good hair. My sister was more on the brighter side and had more of the, the African hair, more tight, than mine. But she had my grandparents' descendants of the fingers. Going through my grandparents' lineage, it was 11 and 12 fingers here and there through the women. I didn't know that. So it proves that she's a part of that lineage. You know what I mean? Like, it's facts. You can't get past that. I didn't know that until I started doing some research. So that's why I say we can learn a lot from our history, man. We can learn a lot from learning who we are personally, and also learning who we are as a people collectively, as a whole. You know what I mean? Because I know that the reality of the matter is I am Native and black. My mom's side was slaves. Like, literally, they was from the plantation. My dad's side wasn't. You see what I'm saying? I didn't know that. I didn't know that they had a little more freedom. They had a lot more freedom because most of them was Native. And they come up through politics too, so they had a little money. And my grandmother actually was well when she migrated into that woman that you seen sitting on that couch with that other man I said that was Cherokee. She was well. She actually had land and everything. And when she met grandfather and they got together and started having kids, she was already doing good. She was already established. So she wasn't, on my dad and side. They didn't, they wasn't struggling. You see what I'm saying? I didn't know this, but you learn a lot about your history. You learn a lot about your people. You learn a lot about why your father is the way he is. And it made me actually, the hatred that I did have, it made me not take it back, but made me feel sorry actually for the situation that he grew up in. Like, I'm like, dang, if I'd have grew up like that, I'd be messed up too. You know what I mean? Like, literally. And I didn't know how he actually grew up and what he faced as a child for me to really understand how he became as a man. You know what I mean? Because certain things affect us and affect other people throughout the generation that you don't fully understand. And we tend to just be mad or be selfish and say, you wasn't there, you wasn't this, you wasn't that. And once you see the situation, you'll realize that they never could be. They never had the opportunity to even learn that. But you didn't know that. So it's humbling, you know what I mean, because you're going to have to forgive, you know what I mean? Because there's going to be some things that also about your family that's going to make you mad. It's going to make you like, huh? Why? And then you find out, and you don't know why. And you just wonder, why is this? And then you get it. You know what I mean? History is deep, family. Learning from our ancestors can help us get further in life. And I'm not going to say that it's not going to knock the breath out of you, because the things I have learned just over the last few days I got to take another sip. It's been real, just, man. And now, the things that I know I want to share with my daughters, because my daughters need to know where they're from. The women and how strong they was and how bold there was and how, how we came about. So I think knowing that helps you know where you're going, because if literally you don't know where you came from, you don't know how to fix everything. So I'm glad now to be 40 years old to actually know where I came from. Like, know my people, not just collectively, like just as Africans and just, completely. I'm talking about just my people, because just for me to know my people to the 1700s is amazing, because a lot of us don't even know that. You know what I mean? We just know grandmama and great grandmama. You know what I'm saying? Big mama. You know what I mean? And we don't really know a lot about this, or why they did this, or why so and so was like this, or why Uncle Frank happened like that, why he died like this, or why Uncle John got killed, or why so and Susie died. You know, we don't know this. We don't know all this. All we know, we just keep up with tradition, and we know certain names, and we think we should keep pass a name down. I'm gonna name my son this because it was named after so and so, so and so, and that's all we know. But we don't really know about so and so, so and so, to be honest. So it's humbling. It's humbling, man, to embrace it and to really learn. Because the more you learn, the more you're gonna embrace the fact that you don't know nothing. You had no reason. You had reason to be angry, but then you realize that it was foolish. You realize that the hatred that formed, which is bitterness, because hatred is a form of bitterness, because if you're bitter towards someone, that person can be living a great you know what I mean, a great fulfilled life. And you can be stuck at home or on a job or in a whatever situation, bitter, mad about a situation that happened 10, 20, 30 years ago. You have to release yourself from that. Not saying that wasn't right, what happened, that person did to you or whatever. But in order for you to keep living and be happy and just have a life, you have to let that moment go. You know what I mean? Whatever that moment was, you have to let that moment go. And now I understand. Now I understand why they did what they did to our people, like how they messed our people up psychologically. But I wouldn't have understood that until I started learning more about my people. And now I understand, and it's amazing. Family, like literally, like it's amazing to learn more about my culture, to be able to change things for my kids, to be able to change things for myself, to be able to work out issues within myself that I didn't know how to fully go about it, but now I do. So I just want to say that some of us didn't have great fathers growing up. Some of us didn't have them at all. But the reality of the matter is, me and you wouldn't be able to sit here today if it wasn't for a father, if it wasn't for that seed. So regardless of what he did, that seed was still important because you exist today. And I think it's your right to learn as much as you can about that seed, even if he didn't teach you about who he was, because maybe he couldn't teach you about who he was because he was in that stage in life where he didn't know. He didn't even know how to learn. He was unlearned. So the more you learn about your past, you'll understand that you have to be the one to break the curse. You have to be the one to make the things straight. You're going to have to set the record straight, so to speak. You're going to have to change things. And there's a reason why you bold the way you are. There's a reason why you are the way you are. If you're shy, there's a reason why. Maybe some things happened in the past, but there's a reason, and it all comes from your ancestors. It all comes from your people. Knowing who your father's people was, your mother's people was, how they was raised, and I remember my mom always telling me stories about my dad's side of the family. She always told me how pretty the women was and how nice their hair was and how they carried themselves with dignity and their heads was held high. My mom was from Tiller, Arkansas. You know what I mean? Very, very, very small place. Then grew up in Reed. It was different. Gravel roads, wasn't nothing paved. Going to town was going to town. It was a day. It was a venture. You know what I mean? And I remember her telling me some of the things on how she met my dad. And growing up, I knew as a kid, just seeing the way my dad treated my mom, he wasn't good for it. And I'm like, why are you with this man? This man is destroying you. And when she finally left, she was telling me, as I was growing up and becoming a teen, she was giving me information here and there, telling me that she was trapped. She was in an area where she was in that country, and my dad had a vehicle, and she was trying to find a way out of that situation, wanted to be grown, wanted to hurry up and leave home, was tired of the country living. It was rough. Man, I want to do something else. I want to go do my own thing. And that's what she did. She wanted to leave, and sometimes we'll put ourselves in a situation because we want to get away. Just want to get away. And sometimes the people that helps us get away might put you in a mental prison, physical prison. But you got away from that situation, and now you realize later in life that, shoot, I should have stayed way over here. I wouldn't have went through that. Because even though my dad is who he is, he wasn't good for my mom, but I'm still here. So it was still meant to be what it was, but she knew that later in life that she was just trying to get away. You know what I mean? And the things that I learned later about my dad is that, it's almost, so to speak, I'm like, and it's almost like I'm a miracle baby, so to speak, after what I learned from my dad's side and the more I learn that, you know, about who I am, it's almost like I should have never been. And now that I'm here and I'm sane, it's amazing to them, you know, to they side of the family who see me because of how they witnessed my dad grow up and how they seen him and my grandmother and what she went through and what he was born into. You know what I mean? You know, me learning that my grandmother, which is my dad's mom, um, lost her mind. She got, you know how we grow up and you hear things like hoodoo and black magic, things like that. It exists, you know, things, rituals, things people can do things to people, you know, it exists. And my grandmother actually was a victim of that, where she got something put on her where it messed her mind up and made her go crazy. And then later, my uncle, which is her brother, and my cousin, which is my uncle's son, where my grandmother was staying at, they went out there and they was found under the front porch. They was digging, and they found the container, metal container, with some of my grandmother's underclothing in it, and some more things under her front porch. When you step off the porch, and evidently the way this was set up, once you step off the porch, mess your mind up. It's supposed to do. But literally, y'all, I'm gonna tell you, I grew up watching my grandmother, and I didn't know this. I didn't know this until now as I'm grown. But my grandmother never been right, y'all. My grandmother always, mine was gone, and I never knew why. I never knew why. You know how you like, I was, oh no, I wasn't Alzheimer's what she had. It happened to her young. And you know what happened? After they found that piece of whatever was under there, they removed it and did whatever they did with it. They walked my grandmother over there, and there was witnesses there. I'm only telling you what I was told and what the people that was there that was still alive seen for themselves. My grandmother instantly came back aware of who she was. And they said one thing, she turned around and looked at her house and said, man, why is my house so dirty? Because she was down to health and couldn't keep up a house. My grandmother was a clean woman, you know, wanted to keep herself up, but when you down mentally, it's hard for you to, you know, take care of your business. And she came back, and then eventually she went back into it, not knowing if another spell got something happened, another whatever happened again, or that slipped back. But I remember her dying in that stage, in that losing her mind stage. I remember visiting the nursing home with my grandfather and my grandmother not knowing who she was. You know, like not knowing who we was. And it was way before our times, and this happened way back then. And it was sad to see, you know. But now that I know what happened, I understand how life happens. I understand how men can cause other women to do things to other women that you really love because they want to replace that woman, and they'll do anything to harm so they can get what she got. This has been going down for history, for generations, family. You know what I mean? And to know that my grandmother was caught up in the midst of something like that, where it was jealousy and a woman wanted to have my grandfather and actually remove my grandmother out the picture. And one way to remove her is if she's still there, she ain't gonna have a mind. That's sad, but those are facts. You know, I can't make my history up. I'm only sharing some of it with you. But I think it's important that you learn more of your history, more of who you are, more of why your father is who he is, because and I like to say the father because it's good to know the father's side, that mother's side, his father's side, because that is where those seeds connect. And once you get to going back in that generational length to seeing what happened and why they are the way they are, then you'll understand, And I really couldn't really understand. Like, I can't lie to you. I never understood. But that's a lot of secrets in our family that's not spoke on. I won't speak on them. And there's a lot of things that I have to embrace as a man to use to become a better man. Because just because they are our elders and they are our forefathers doesn't mean that everything they did was written in stone to be perfect, because it wasn't. They had to live and learn just like we do. So if we can learn from what they already faced, don't you think it can save us a headache? It can make us a better people. It can make us better fathers, better husbands, better wives, better kings, better queens. It can make us better if we know why we are who we are. Then we can work on some of these ways. I remember as a kid knowing that one of my little cousins had a mental problem. Like, I know she wasn't right. I loved her. She was smart and pretty, but I knew mentally something was wrong with my cousin. But growing up and where we was at that time, they just say, "Oh, that girl, she alright, that girl," ooh," but all that time they just neglected her issue, and she really had an issue. And later in life, when she got, I don't know, she was in her late 20s. I don't know if she was in her late 20s or early 30s. She had an episode, and they finally went back and found out that she'd been having these issues since, and never got any help for these issues. And now she's getting help and taking medication, but she been having an issue forever. And we said, "Oh, so and so, we'll write it off. You know how we do in the black community. Oh, so and so just crazy. Oh, so and so, we just play." But they really got a problem. And we really never get help for our issues. Like, a lot of our black people, our black men, we have problems that we need counseling for. And you see how white America always talk about a pill. They try to put you on a pill, but they get counseling for everything. And we think it's, "Oh, nah, we don't need to get help for that. We don't need to get no counseling for this. We don't need to talk to no one about so and so, so and so. I can handle it." Nah, man. You know, I just found out one of my friends almost lost his whole foot that I knew from Newport, and it kind of caught me off guard once I heard the story. But you know how black men are. Some of them they don't want to go to the doctor till it's too late. Or why, I don't know why we do it, but we do it. "Oh man, nah, I'm alright. That ain't nothing. It'll be okay." Then, not knowing that you know he was something and was trying to say that it wasn't what it was, and it really was, and he didn't want to admit it. And as soon as he seen it not looking right, he should have got it looked at, because found out he was a diabetic and didn't know it. And we all know that when you're a diabetic, you have to change things up a lot. You know what I mean? So you have to change things up a lot. So I just want to say that make sure you take care of yourself, family. Make sure you take care of yourself. Um, be safe. Know your history. Know why you are who you are. Um, do what you got to do to stay alive as long as you can, to build some generational wealth for your family, to really change history, change the course of things for your kids and their generation. But in order to do so, you have to know your past. We have to know where we've been. And it might not just be a real, real pretty sight. So embrace yourself. But it's okay. You still can make it better, man. Everybody family got some skeletons in their closet. Embrace what you learn. Have it make you better. Smile. Understand that things can get better from here. Some things will make you laugh. Some things will make you cry. But it's all about learning your history. So, just want to salute everyone. Hope everyone have a good day. I got a lot going on today. Hopefully I have a meeting. So I'm about to get ready, get shaved up, take a shower, get myself together early. I've been getting a few things going, but since I got these packages in, I'm gonna go on and set those things in here, and then probably line some of it out, and then start on my day. So I'll be coming back with y'all shortly today, but just wanted to give you a little history up on my history, and just say that I think it's wise that we learn our history, where we're from, where our people from, so that way we'll know exactly where we're going and what we need to work on in our lives personally. Hold on.